Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for part 2 of our talk on how inclusivity shapes the tech we all use. In part 1, we looked at how many of the routine technologies we use every day begin life as inclusive technologies to aid people with specific needs. Part 2, we need to shift our mindsets. I want to rewire your brains to change your perspective so you don't look at things the same way ever again. All ducks look perfectly normal at first, until you are told that all ducks are actually wearing dog masks. Once you see it that way, it's impossible to unsee. At any given time, we may find ourselves situationally, temporarily, and eventually maybe permanently disabled. How many people watching today are short-sighted? Well, I am. And I was diagnosed with severe myopia when I was 4 years old, and have had needed to wear corrective lenses since. So if I'm outside and I dropped my contact lens, I can't do simple things we take for our vision for granted, such as reading the numbers on approaching buses or crossing the street safely. In this case, I'm in the spectrum of temporarily visually impaired. Let's take another example, hearing. If you are in a noisy environment and can't hear your friends speaking over lunch, that's situational. If you have an ear infection, you may experience a temporary loss of hearing. And of course, there is deafness or a permanent loss of hearing. The average person doesn't exist. This is a common trap when we build products. We aim to meet the needs for the person in the middle, but the problem with this approach is that it excludes a significant portion of your potential user base. When you adopt inclusive design, you design for people at the edges. And through doing that, you provide an experience that meets the needs of as many people as possible. Don't forget, we might be normal today, but we find ourselves moving towards the extremes as we age and lose more of our sight, hearing, and mobility. Because we are all only ever temporarily able-bodied. Let's put inclusive design into a real-world context. During COVID-19, Singapore had a track and trace system. We had what was called the Trace Together app, as well as a token device. It is the token alternative that helped people who have difficulty operating a smartphone, are visually impaired and can't see the QR code to scan with the app, do not own smartphones, may be concerned about tracking and security, and thus did not want to install the app. They might have run out of battery on their smartphones when they were about to check in somewhere and couldn't have their phones on hand to scan the app. Or are like me, who did not want to queue behind everyone trying to scan the QR code to enter a premise. Above all, the token helped everyone who couldn't or didn't use the app for any number of reasons to check into a venue anywhere. Some of you might be wondering, where does accessibility fit in with inclusive design? Inclusive design is a methodology of designing specific solutions that can be extended to different users. For example, closed captioning is not just an aid for people who have a hearing impairment, but a tool that benefits everyone. Accessibility is an approach in building products which considers the needs of people with disabilities. For example, images having alt text to help people with visual impairment. We need to broaden our mindset from accessibility, where we are just complying with accessibility standards for people with disabilities, to inclusive design, where we create experiences that are truly usable for everyone. Microsoft came up with the 3 guiding principles of inclusive design. Number 1, recognize exclusion. Notice in the cartoon, there is a student in a wheelchair. Secondly, learn from diversity. The student suggests to shovel the ramp first so everyone can use it. And third, solve for one, extend to many. The ramp doesn't just benefit the wheelchair, but also the elderly with a walking aid, someone with a broken leg on crutches, a delivery person with a heavy load, or a parent with a stroller, whereas only a subset can use the stairs. Everyone has abilities and limits. Creating products for people with permanent disabilities creates results that benefit everyone. In Singapore, our government has its Enabling Master Plan 2030. Public services' purpose is to give all residents the content and tools they need to help them achieve their full potential. Public officers are among the most influential for improving people's lives. If the public sector can show inclusivity and accessibility done right, it can be the role model for the private sector to follow. In fact, in many countries, accessibility is the law. Let's look at some examples of what the UK is doing. Many in the audience will have heard of the UK's Government Digital Service, also known as GDS, one of the first specialist digital government departments. They have excellent documentation, and we wanted to share some examples of things you could try in your own teams and workplaces. Gov.uk, shown here, is the main portal for public services and information. This website and all UK government websites include an accessibility statement describing what's been done to make the site work for as many people as possible. James will talk about another example of these later on. Gov.uk also publishes user profiles, which describe people with different disabilities, how they typically use technology, and how they might need to interact with government. Think of them like personas and scenarios. The idea is to give concrete examples to humanize their needs and show common barriers they face when using public services. They're available publicly, so anyone can use them in their own work. To ensure the UK's digital services are high quality and consistent, they use the service standard as a set of guidelines which must be met for a service to be allowed to go live. As you can see here, number 5 is make sure everyone can use the service. So accessibility and inclusion is a first-class citizen with equal emphasis to other requirements like use agile ways of working and protect users' privacy. The GDS service manual includes many resources about accessibility, creating a central reference point for what it means, why it's important, and why public services must address it. This combined with the service standard requirements means public services simply cannot go live without meeting a minimum level of accessibility and inclusion. They often require assisted digital support too, a broader definition of what it means for public services to be accessible. To ensure as wide inclusion as possible, they define accessible to also mean available. So public services should be easily usable by people not confident with technology or without digital skills, or who don't have personal access to the internet. They provide documentation for ways of working, internal tooling, and infrastructure like design systems and ways of measuring accessibility. And guidance documentation for common government activities like publishing documents and procuring services from vendors. I hope everyone is feeling inspired. Now let's address the questions that are no doubt on everyone's mind today. Where do I start? And what can I do? Thank you for watching part 2 of our talk on how inclusivity shapes the tech we all use. We hope we've offered you some new perspectives. Next, we'll address the questions no doubt on everyone's mind. Where do I start? And what can I do? In part 3, we'll share 5 actionable tactics you can use straight away to improve the inclusivity of the products and services you work on. See you there.